We're talking with Mr. Ted Wright, who has dedicated his life to helping people. He's currently the coordinator of the Westmount Legal Clinic. Ted, this question comes from Karen. The question that she has is, can you tell us about the law as it pertains to dogs? Landlord and tenant law as it pertains to dogs.
Okay, sure. First, you have to look in your lease to see if you're allowed to have an animal. If you're allowed to have an animal, you can have an animal. However, that animal cannot disturb anyone else or cause any kind of legal problem. If you cannot have an animal, it shouldn't be there. Now, what kind of problems can dogs cause? Well, they can bark a lot and disturb sleep. They can bite people. We've had that happen. They can defecate or urinate in the hallways, even in your apartment. We had one place where the person dedicated a room as their sandbox. I know that sounds bizarre, but that's what happened. They dedicated the room. We have another case where the landlord or the tenant has just let the dog go in the backyard all during the winter. I actually saw it myself on the weekend. There's got to be 60 or 70 piles of stuff there. And I told him, this is against the law. The inspector comes in here, you're going to have difficulty. So for Karen, you can have a dog, but you can't let your dog break any law. You can't let your dog disturb anybody else. You can't let any kind of mess build up whatsoever, smells or anything like that. And believe me, you can be evicted if you aren't taking care of your dog or if you have an animal when the animal is not allowed to be there as per the lease contract.
Can you be refused the opportunity to live in a place if you have an animal and they don't want animals there?
Sure, because when you're signing a contract is an agreement. The landlord owns that building, owns that apartment, says, okay, I'm only letting you in here, but you can't have an animal. And that becomes part of the contract. So if the landlord says that, there's nothing in the Quebec Charter of Rights. The Quebec Charter of Rights means people, not animals. So your history, walk on, you got to find a new place or another place.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's get back to the topic we were talking about just before that last music break. We were talking about the sacrifices and the obstacles that you have to deal with in order to live the lifestyle you do. And you said something really, really poignant about making it difficult for you to enter into relationships because of the lack of security.
Oh yeah, I mean, people want security in their lives. People need security in their lives. And I do a lot of things. I've got a very high media profile, right? And people always assume that I have loads of money. Well, I don't. And I'd love to have loads of money, but so that's what happens. Like when I get invited to something, and they say, it's only $250 for the ticket, Teddy. Come on, you and your wife can come. And I said, well, I'm not married. So for them, they ask me like it's a fundraiser, $500. Gee whiz, like $500 is not quite my rent, but it's like still, you can't go. And so if I had the money, believe me, you would see me even have a higher profile because I know a lot of people. And that's part of the difficulty. And you have to learn to accept that no matter what kind of qualities or possibilities that happen, if you don't do what society requests of you to do in order to have a certain lifestyle, you won't get where you think you should be or where people expect you to be. And you have to sit back and say, well, I guess I'm going to swallow that and just live internally with my own spirituality and do the things that are important to me. And that's what you have to learn to live with. It's not easy and it's not completely acceptable. But when it comes down to it, I have very, very few regrets. Because you do stuff, and don't bother me. When it comes down to it, I'm stronger than a lot of people. I've been faced with my own death 4 times. And so what's my attitude? I don't much care. So what? I give presentations often, and one of the questions that were asked, I gave it to a high school, and they said, well, how do you want to be remembered? And my answer, I just answered, I wasn't surprised to me. I said, I don't care how you remember me. I've done so much stuff. I've helped millions and millions and millions of cases with all the time been on radio and TV, and I'm talking millions. And I just said, I don't care how you remember me at all, because it's totally irrelevant to me. And I was told afterwards by the staff of the school, they talked about you for weeks because everybody else comes in saying, this is how I want to be remembered, and you just didn't care. And I said, well, it's the truth. And that's what you have to do. If you're true to your own being, and I mean really true, the worries that you have on a spiritual level, they dissipate, and your life is so much lighter. And for me, helping people, I have a light existence. I mean, health-wise, no. Money-wise, no. But believe me, philosophically, spiritually, I am so light. I don't have worries. I mean, I essentially follow what I believe, and I really try hard not to have compromises or inconsistencies in my application of my own personal philosophy. That's all.